In 3, 2, 1. Is it live or is it Memorex? Greetings, people. This is Jimmy coming to you live. Anyway, today's date is the 18th of November, Saturday, the Sabbath, by the way, 2023, and the time is 1200 hours and about 18 minutes, okay, aka 12:18 p.m. in the afternoon, Central Standard Chicagoland time. I always like to log the date and the time in these videos. Anyway, how's everyone out there doing today? Hope you're having a good day. So, this morning, as I'm communing with the Lord, okay, I'm hearing him say, because I was seeking, like, what are you going to tell me, God, you know? And I heard this. Do you remember when I told you and he showed me what he was talking about? It was very clear. I said, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay? And there's multiple thoughts going through my mind before then and since then, and I had to get back to that. So I'm like, oh yeah, God, what was I thinking about now? Besides all the other things I'm thinking about, the many things, and they brought it back to my memory. Oh, I said, yeah, that's right. Remember when you told me? So God said, remember when I told you? And I said, and then he had to refresh my memory that he said that to me today. I said, what did you, oh yeah, remember when I told you? He says again, and he showed me, like, yeah, I remember that. Okay. But now I'm listening more. It's like, yes, I remember when you told me, and what for today, you know, and what, right? So, in following this lead, okay, I thought that's what I'm going to share today here on Facebook. Remember when? Remember when? You remember when I told you? So I said, I always like to look at the definitions of words. So it's like told. I said, I typed in Google. Okay, told, T-O-L-D, definition. It comes up with a definition. Tell, definition. I'm like, no. Let me go back and do this again. So then I see told, right? And then it gives me this thing underneath that I can use as an option. Told meaning. Okay. So that's, yeah, I want to look, not the word tell, but the word told. Told meaning. Okay. Hit that. Because I typed in told definition first and it brings me to tell. Now I'm seeing that ghosting up, you know, as an option. It's like told meaning. That's what yes, exactly. And once again, it sends me back to the word tell. This time I actually read it. It says told, so it's going to give it to me. It says to tell. Told is the past tense of to tell. And then I said, well, okay, let's look at the rest of the definition. To communicate something to someone, some information. To order or to instruct. And to confide in. Okay. And God is speaking today. Are we listening? If there is a God, and that God created us, and we are capable of speaking, then that God, obviously, of course, is able to speak and does speak. If God created us, the human beings, and we can hear, and we are capable of hearing, we are capable of speaking, and we're capable of hearing, then the God who created us can hear. So, God speaks. Are we listening? And when we speak, God listens too, right? So, if you are in my vicinity, in the same room with me, whether you're directing it towards me or not, and you were saying something, I would hear you. And if I was saying something, you would hear me. Now we're facing each other, and now you're saying something to me, and of course I hear you. Then I'm going to say something to you, and you're going to hear me, right? So this is about communication. So it's about communicating. It's about communicating with our Maker. God speaking with us listening, us speaking with God, or speaking and answering, okay? And Him listening, right? Us bringing something to God, and we initiate it, and God listens. Okay, God initiates things and brings them to us. And have you ever heard the old commercial that says, when Merrill Lynch speaks, people listen? Well, let me say this. When God speaks, even Merrill Lynch listens. The other thing is, the God of heaven, Jehovah, okay, according to the Torah and the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, I had to read that again. I never realized that. Oh, I always knew that Moses came down from the mountain and spoke to the people, right, from God. And as much as a number of times I've read those passages in that area, it wasn't too long ago that I actually seen, for the first time, after all these years, that God Himself came to the people and spoke with them, not just Moses. I had to read that again. I said, really? That's in there? Yes, God Himself came and spoke to the people. God Himself, listen to me, the first time that it's recorded, it's in the book of Exodus, so that's got to be real close to the beginning of time, Genesis, Exodus, right? That it's recorded that God spoke to His people collectively, where He showed up and they all heard His voice at the same time, was there in Mount Sinai in the desert. That not only did Moses come back down, but God came with them and spoke to the people. Read it, it's in Exodus, and the people were feared and trembled, and He said, oh no, please don't have Him speak to us no more. Moses, don't let Him speak to us no more. They were so scared. It's like, what are you scared of? He just saved you and delivered you out of Egypt. He loves you. What are you talking about? Okay, please listen. And I know that the Jewish people do not believe in the Newer Testament, and they don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Overall, they don't believe, the Jews don't believe that. Okay? And there are certain of those who have believed and do believe that Jesus is the Messiah, and they call them Messianic Jews, because Jesus being Hamashiach, the Messiah, the promised one to the Jews, and them recognizing Jesus as such. At the very beginning, when Jesus came to Israel, when He was born there, and He called His 12 disciples, who became His first 12 apostles, they knew. Jesus said, who do you say I am? To Peter, James, and John up on a Mount Tabor in the Mount of Transfiguration. And after Jesus had a visitation from Moses and Elijah, and Jesus' garments were whiter than anybody else can get clothes white, and all these other things. And they seen Him. They said, Lord, let us pitch tents for you. And Moses and Elijah. And you know what? After they left, Jesus went and turned to those three, Peter, James, John. He brought them three with him quite a few times alone. He did that same thing just before He was arrested from the Garden of Gethsemane. He brought those three guys with him, apart from the other 9. After the Last Supper in the upper room, to the Garden of Gethsemane, He says, stay here. And they walked further to the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed. And those three were there. Those were His really close confidants, especially John, the apostle that Jesus loveth. Writes John, talking about himself. Jesus loves me, But he had his head resting on Jesus' chest, man. Remember, it's the Last Supper, right? And come on, man, think about the life story of John. Okay, so let's move on. He says to Peter, James, John, who do you say I am? No, he goes over there and he says, who do you say that I am? That's what he said to him. He goes over there at that situation, and I'm witnessing this, and said, who do you say that I am? Peter looked at him and says, you are the Messiah. You are the Hamashiach. You are the Hamashiach. Right? The anointed one, the one promised, sent of God. He said, blessed are you, Simon, son of Bar-Jonah. Right? Or Simon Bar-Jonah. Bar means son, in that case. Simon, son of Jonah. He says, for flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you, but my Father has. And upon this rock of revelation knowledge, given to us by God, called Rhema, upon that rock, Jesus shall build his ecclesia. He shall build his, there's, what Aramaic word was he using for it? I just posted all this stuff the other day. Okay, his body of believers. He will build them, he will add to them, and he will build them up. Okay, so, I know the Jews overall don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah yet. Nevertheless, please indulge me, okay? Please listen, and be reasonable, that in the newer covenant, I didn't say the new covenant as if the old covenant has passed away, because the old covenant is not passed away. I call it the older covenant. It takes precedence. It has honor, okay? It's the elder of the two. And then the newer covenant is all full of the old covenant promises, man. That was, accordingly, is claimed that Jesus brought to us through the redemption story. It's a true story. And now is continuing with those promises. So anyway, in the newer covenant, in the Gospels, there Jesus is getting baptized by John the Baptist in the wilderness. But as I was saying, they received Jesus as the Messiah. The 12 disciples, the 12 apostles, everybody in Jerusalem, Samaria, knew that he was the Messiah. The only ones that had a problem with that was, listen to me please, were the Romans and the puppet government of religious leaders that they had there, of certain of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes, okay, who were the yes men to the Roman Empire, okay, and that's why they allowed them to have that position so that they can have run their so-called theocracy still, their theocratical religious form of government. Why? To keep the people appeased, that much more to help the Romans control the Jews. And you had to be a yes man to the Romans to get in those positions of those of Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes to be the top guys to run the place, man. Okay? Not all of them in there were corrupt, but a lot of them were. Sounds familiar today? Politics? Okay, listen. But the Jews, the common everyday people, okay, in Jerusalem, Israel, Judea, Samaria, knew that Jesus was the Messiah. Okay? So now Jesus in the wilderness being baptized by Moses, that would be a first, right? I'm sorry, being baptized by John the Baptist. Are you listening? Because the first time that God spoke to people, his people collectively, from heaven itself, and everybody heard his voice. Let's see, when was that happen? When did that happen with Moses and the people of Israel in the desert? Wasn't it like something like 1,500 years before Jesus? 1,500 years later, there's Jesus and the voice of God. Listen to me, with all those people around there. I mean, come on, man, it's packed over there at the River Jordan. People getting baptized. With all those people there, God from heaven again spoke, and he says, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Listen to him. And they all heard the audible voice of God from heaven. But that was 1,500 years later after the first time. Now it's been 2,000 years since then, since Jesus was baptized, and the voice of God spoke openly to his people collectively, where they all heard it at the same time. It's been another 2,000 years. Two times, listen to me, in 3,500 years. In 3,500 years, only two times that I see record of, that God openly spoke to his people in one place. Not everybody in Jerusalem and Israel and everybody was at the River Jordan. No, when Jesus was getting baptized, but don't tell me there wasn't some huge crowd there when God was going to do something that significant. Peter says in one of his books, we were eyewitnesses of his majesty on the mountain, heard the voice, the God. Oh, as a matter of fact, by the way, I do believe it was also on the Mount of Transfiguration, Mount Tabor, where God spoke there as well and says, this is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased, hear ye him. Okay, to that effect. And so then he said at the beginning when Jesus got baptized. Peter said in one of his 2 letters, we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. Why? Because God needed witnesses so that they can come and tell the people, and then those people tell other people, and those people tell other people to reach us in our generation, that we heard people before us tell us about this story and about these events. But the thing of it is, it's been 2,000 years since God spoke to his people collectively, and he's only done so twice that I know of. It's time for God to speak openly again to his people, his Jewish people, his Hebrew people, his Jewish people, his Israeli people in Jerusalem, in Israel, and around the world, and for them collectively to hear his voice audibly. God does speak from heaven. We can hear his voice as individuals. God speaks. God told me when he said, this thing I'm referring to you about, this title of this thing is that a number of years back, I was in a sound sleep, and I didn't know I was sleeping because of the sleep. And I heard the voice of God speak to me, and it woke me up. And he ordered me, and he instructed me. And the next morning, he did the same. And the next morning, every morning, I looked forward to God waking me up with his voice. That's how I woke up every morning. Otherwise, I didn't wake up until God spoke to me, and as a result, it woke me up. But I could hear it in my sleep, and I immediately woke up and remembered what he said and would write it down. And I would focus on that thought daily. And so anyway, I said, yes, Lord. Oh, I'm back to that conversation with God again. Okay, Lord, I remember. Yes, I remember. Okay, oh, yeah. What did you say to me earlier? Remember when I told you? Oh, yeah, I remember. Oh, thanks for reminding me of that again. Okay, yeah, I remember what you told me. You must want to tell me something else about that. And what about it? He goes, do you miss it? I'm like, yes, Lord, I do. I miss it. Okay? So that's how I was waking up every morning. All right? But now every morning I wake up and I seek God. I think he woke me up the other morning at 8:30. I had only got 3 hours sleep from 5:30 to 8:30 after being up like 36 hours. And then I was up a total of 50-something hours with only 3 hours of sleep. When you know it, I got someone at the door. Well, guess what? Tough. They can wait. All right? So listen to me. All right? He said, do you miss it? I'm like, yes. But listen, I think God woke me up the other day, just woke me up. Okay, did I hear his voice at the moment? Not that I recall consciously. But now, I'm seeking God here every day now, early in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting up. To me, that's early. And being in so-called retirement, I'm up at 7 a.m., okay? And I'm like, okay, I'm seeking God right away. And I'm listening for his voice, and I'm listening to what he's telling me. And he's speaking to me every day. He's speaking to me every day as I sit here with him having coffee. I make coffee for him and me, and we sit here and we communicate. Anyway, people, God speaks. Please listen. Also, God listens, so please speak to him. Okay, he will answer your prayers when you pray according to his will, and his will is for you to be blessed and prosper and healthy and successful and good, but mostly to have salvation. Believe in Yeshua as the Messiah, HaMashiach. Okay. Jesus is the Lord, and God bless you. Sayonara. Anjikashipshio. Asala bye-bye. Okay? Bada boom, bada bing. Let's see each other again on the flip side. Cheers. God bless. Thanks for tuning in.